Hi, welcome back to From Another Point of View, the podcast that started as a conversation between two friends about fashion industry, and then it turned into so much more. On this podcast, we talk about wellness, self-development, spirituality, and just so much more, and fashion, of course. I'm your host, Alice, and I am flying solo today, but not for long because I actually have a very special guest coming on a little bit later in the episode. So before we jump into that, I just wanted to remind you that we do have a new episode every single Thursday at 5 p.m. And by we, I mean myself and my co-host Agnes, who is here every week, apart from today. And also every week we are discussing new, different topic or theme. So previously we've discussed how to grow your confidence. Also we've spoken about retail therapy and spring cleaning your wardrobe. And our current theme is color. Last week's episode was all about the language of color, meaning how does each color affect us? How does each color communicate with your body? We are literally surrounded by color, starting from the room you're in, the interior design, the pillows, the sheets, to what you and the people around you choose to wear that day, to then going to the city and seeing the billboards and cars, advertising, all of that, to the nature and the sky around you. And each color is a vibration. It carries an energy behind it that affects you. So more on that in our previous episode, so do check it out. This week we are continuing our subject about color. So I'm going to be talking to Annabel, who's a psycho-kinesiologist and also color therapist. So what is psycho-kinesiology? It's a holistic therapy that combines kinesiology, aka a form of therapy that uses muscle monitoring to look at imbalances that may be causing disease in your body. So it combines that with psychology and energy healing principles to address physical, emotional, and mental imbalances. So emotional release techniques and even light therapy is used to identify a threat and root causes of various health concerns. So it's super intriguing, super interesting. I had never heard about it before, but I came across Annabel's social media platforms when I was trying to find ways to release trauma within my body, and I was immediately drawn to Annabel's energy. She's so lovely. She's got such a light energy about her, and I remember just going through her whole page in one go, saving a bunch of videos for later, and I just really love what she's about. So we're gonna jump into the conversation I had with her. Enough of this monologue, and again, find all the information in our previous episode as well as the show notes. So let's jump in. I would love to ask you if you could talk a little bit more about what you do.
I'm a psycho-kinesiologist, which is, I'll explain it in a minute, but it was the funniest story of how I found it. I was going to therapy for a while and I was an accountant and I was like, I need a change. I know this isn't what I'm meant to be doing. So I quit accounting. I started working at a friend's therapist clinic, just doing admin, being like, at least this is in the healing realm. It's a bit more what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, universe, just give me a sign. Tell me what I'm meant to do. And I'd stare at this acupuncture clinic every day for 6 months. And I was like, finally, I'm actually going to go there. Ooh. And then I booked the wrong spot. I booked this place down the road and I had never done acupuncture before. I thought that was quite far out at the time, which a few years later, I am completely well past that point. But here we did some acupuncture and then he was like, do you want to do some psycho-kinesiology? And I was like, well, I'm already here. I don't even know what that is. So sure.
Let's try it.
Exactly. It changed everything in one session.
Oh,
I had been going therapy for years. I did not see the results that I got from one session. I booked another one the next week and he offered me a job. And from there, I trained under him for a couple of years and then started seeing my own clients and then went traveling around the world teaching and seeing clients with that. And now starting to share it online as well. So psycho-kinesiology, it's this practice of understanding where in your body you're holding stress. And then in Chinese medicine, it says every single one of your emotions is held in your body until it's processed, but it is also super organized.
Wow.
So your anger is in your liver, your resentment is somewhere else, your chronic grief is held in your lungs. And then we get to the light therapy part where we're able to create new neural pathways using light therapy or 10 different colored glasses.
Wow. That's so fascinating. And we're so like it's not a new thing. I know like way back in the day, like ancient Egypt, um like we're using color therapy and all of those fascinating things, but we're so far removed from that it kind of just sounds woo woo. Like if you talk about this to someone who's like not into this whole world, yeah, it's just like, what are you talking about? This is weird, right? It's crazy to me. But yeah, I kind of like want to touch on it as well from my perspective. I've been going through a lot of like bad anxiety, and I used to wear just black clothing. Like that was my go-to. Like I would just wear black. I'm wondering why. It's probably just like conditioning, and it just like is the color to go to. But ever since I started my healing process, I've been wearing so much color. Like I'm drawn to very specific colors, like orange and yellow. So I kind of want to ask you if you think in our like ancient brain we still store that kind of information intuitively, and we just kind of like we know it
Yeah,
somewhere on a
definitely.
deeper level.
I 100% think we do. Our subconscious craves color. However,
Mm,
going back to what you said about the black, I find it so interesting because it's not a color, it's a shade, but what it does is absorb everything. And
yeah.
when you're in that state where you're going through high anxiety or high depression or just having one of those days, sometimes you may notice that you gravitate towards black, and that's because you have no energy to actually give. And that's exactly what
Wow.
black does. It just takes everything and it just accepts it, but it has no energy to give. And when you're in that state where you're mentally not the best, you also have no energy to give.
That is so cool because yeah, like obviously we all have our like down days. We just feel like, ugh, I just don't want to do anything. I have no energy. And that's exactly when I want to wear black clothing. But I was thinking it's because I don't want to make an effort. But I guess subconsciously there's like more to it.
There's so much more to it. And then as soon as you get that energy to give, I have realized that it kind of is based with the chakra colors. So if it's orange, it's more, you've got more joy. Or even if you look at fast food and things like that, it's always almost red. And that's
Yeah.
always that root chakra with that food and that base needs. And if you're looking at blue, it's more communication, or pink, it's more self love. And everything about that, it's always the energy that you're giving instead
Yeah.
of what you're able to give and receive. And I find it so incredible because it's something that is so tapped into our subconscious. No one ever goes, oh, I want to wear yellow because I want to be confident. But that's what
Yeah.
you should actually be doing.
Yes, completely agree. That kind of like ties into a question I have about how fashion is kind of changing a little bit after the pandemic. I feel like we see a lot more people wearing color, like dopamine dressing. And I feel like, do you think there's some kind of correlation with sitting at home like for years, or like for a year? How long was the lockdown for?
A little
And
while.
then kind of like, yes, it feels like 5 years or something. And then kind of like coming out and like wanting to, I guess, give the energy back, or how do you see it?
Yeah, well, I think everyone during lockdown, especially myself, had to go through a healing process of some
Yeah.
kind. So
Yeah.
beforehand, we were able to kind of reject it, forget about it. And then we were stuck in our homes for so long, and we were like, oh, it's not going anywhere, might as well address it. And then we
Yes.
came out, we're like, all right, let's share this energy with the world. I actually have energy to give now instead of just living in this survival mode almost. And
Right.
it's so much nicer seeing everyone like dopamine dressing. It's happy, it's joyful.
Yes. Like colors are all around us. So like even if you're not wearing color specifically, or maybe you're not ready to wear color yet, you're in that healing process still. If you see someone else wearing colors, like that just brings you something. You feel it.
You really do. One of my favorite things about color therapy is that it also isn't the entire time that you're wearing the color that it influences you.
Right.
I'm not sure what jail it was in America, but there's this millennial pink-esque color that is really, really calming. And it's shown to reduce aggravation, it's like increases peacefulness. And so this jail said, I'm going to paint all the cells this pink color.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
But what they didn't realize was it only works for 10 minutes. And so now they've got all these pink jail cells, but it only has those effects for 10 minutes. So when you pass by someone in the street and they're wearing this pink and it's beautiful, you become calmer because of that. But the person who's wearing it, it doesn't necessarily have that effect on them all day.
Oh, why is that?
Our brain just gets used to stuff. Hedonic adaptation. We just we become used to what we're around.
Okay, so it's almost like I've gone through periods where I'm wearing yellow all the time, but it's maybe not necessarily for the whole day. Maybe like just waking up, I felt like wearing that color and it helped me like the initial mood.
Yeah, so you may just see it and then be like, yes, I want to wear that. And then like when you're looking at your sleeve, you kind of always forget about it. It's like how you always see your nose, but your mind is like,
Yes.
you block it out. And then maybe if you look in the mirror midway through the day and you're like, oh, I look good, then you get that hit again.
Mental note. Try to look at yourself in the mirror like every half an hour just to like get the boost again.
Exactly. Just stand there, admire yourself, maybe say an affirmation. Like,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Oh my God, that sounds really good. Like, for example, I woke up today and I wanted to wear white. Do you think it's like my brain trying to like tell me something, or is it just like just a coincidence?
No, I think it really is your brain telling you what you've got to give. So white is the opposite of black. So today you might have woken up with so much energy to give and you're just like, I'm ready. I can. It's the opposite. You're not accepting everything, you're giving everything. And you're like, I've got my cup is already overfilling. I am wearing white. And I think that also links to the seasons as well. In summer, we've got so much more energy, we're so much more alive. And we're always wearing those pastels, a lot more color. I
Yes.
personally went through my winter wardrobe yesterday and I realized everything I own it's either a navy, it's black, it's a mustard. Like there's no bright full colors. And I was like, need to make a shopping trip.
Yeah. You kind of nicely went into the seasons because like obviously I'm in London and the weather here is just so dull. It's like today we kind of had sun and now it's going into gray again. So I'm wondering if there's like a tip you could give to people living in a more dull areas in the world, like to just like cheer themselves up.
Yeah, so definitely try and stay away from the darker colors. But also by saying that, I don't want to say try and give more energy than you have. But
Yeah.
try to wear at least one little piece of color every day. Maybe it's jewelry, maybe it's something, even just painting your nails, something a different color. That way you're adding still that little brightness. And as we said, when you walk past someone and they're wearing something fun, like I really want brooches to be back in style. I think that'd be a great dopamine dressing thing. And that way when you
True.
see someone with a cool brooch, you're like, that's awesome. Because you're never
Exactly.
just dressing for yourself, you're dressing for everyone else. And so by doing that in a cooler climate, especially London where it is so grey and so icky, it
Yep.
kind of just brings that joy.
Explain that right. But that's a really cool point. Like, you don't have to wear color, you know, top to bottom. Like, it can just be like small little things. Like, you have a sleeve, like, maybe that's just coming out of like a black jumpsuit that you have. Because a lot of people are more comfortable wearing black color, despite like maybe them feeling like they want to wear color, and just like easing into it would be through accessories.
Accessories, definitely, and also at home when you're by yourself, because it is kind of that giving energy, and that is a little scary to do sometimes out in the world where you're so used to wearing black all day. You're like, I'm not going to
Mm,
wear a pink shirt. That
mm.
that's people are going to look at me. But if you do it at home first, then you're getting used to that energy, and you're like, you get to play with it a little bit in this like really safe space.
That is such a good point. And just like catch yourself in a mirror time to time at home, vibing. That's so cool.
Definitely fun pajamas all the way.
Yes. Oh, my pajamas are navy blue. Now I'm thinking maybe I should like add some color.
Lime green.
Oh, nice. So when do you think someone should seek like help from someone like you?
I think everyone has their own different rock bottom, and you get to choose where your rock bottom is. You go, is
Mm,
this the worst I'm going to let it get? And there is things that are external that you can never control, and they're always going to make things really difficult. But if you're looking at your mindset of going, this is where I can see myself going down this really slippery slope, I want a better life.
Yeah.
When are you choosing that? And so everyone has their own different time period, but I always think it's easier to walk up a smaller hill than it is a really big hill. So I think everyone's got something going on. No one's absolutely perfect. No one is, and if they claim to be, I'm sorry, they're not.
No.
They're not. We've all got things that we can work with, and even just one-off sessions with a mental health, someone in that expert field, it's always going to help. And even if it is just that little bit of guidance or just talking to a friend, it doesn't have to be someone who is, you have to pay and it needs to be this thing that you schedule. It can just be calling up someone.
That's true.
You need to just define that by your own standards and go, okay, it's 2023. We accept that getting help is something that is really good and really helpful. So I don't think we have that stigma anymore, which is really good.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Like, I love people just digging within themselves a little bit, because at the end of the day, that's the only way you can truly be happy. What can someone like expect from a session with like a color therapist? It's like a lot.
The words to describe it are incredible. I've had people who have been like, "You've changed my life. I have no idea what you've done."
Wow.
So with psycho-kinesiology, it's using your own energy. It's using acupressure points. You're using different emotion, and people are, I don't fully understand it, and it takes years to learn. And so trying to explain it, being like, oh, we're just doing this, and then this means like links to this, and then this meridian holds these emotions, and then they're like,
my God,
you fixed me. How? I don't care, because I'm fixed.
Now I want to try it. Can you come to London, please?
Definitely. I also do online sessions, but instead of using the light therapy, we use either EFT therapy or a couple of different modalities to still get that belief change happening, because the light therapy just creates new neural pathways in the brain. So it's creating new thought patterns, really similar to EMDR therapy. So sadly, I'm not in London, but
maybe one day. Soon, come visit.
Hopefully. If I do, I'll hit you up.
Please do. I mean, that was so fascinating. I feel like we could go in depth about everything, but obviously we'll link you in the show notes and just like put you on our stories and everything so people can find you and just like get more information, because you also like helped me personally, just giving tapping advice and like some just like yoga practices and the laughing ones. Like, I just love what you do. So thank you so much for joining me today.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.